When you're building a retirement plan, one important factor to consider is how much after-tax retirement income you need. But this might bring up more questions than answers. Maybe what is a reasonable amount? What's a good amount? Or what are other people doing? In this video, we're going to help you answer some of those questions. We're going to look at 3 different ways to estimate your after-tax retirement income needs. Retirement income planning is very important. Aiming too high means that you could be over-saving before retirement. You could be saving and investing too much, making things more difficult than they need to be. Aiming too low is also a risk because you might not have enough assets to meet your retirement spending goal. It's also hard to build a retirement income goal without any tools or resources. How do you know what you're planning is reasonable? How do you know it makes sense? How can you validate your retirement income goal against others? Now, there are many ways to create a good retirement income goal. In this video, we're going to look at 3 of them. We're going to look at 3 different ways that you can validate and make a good retirement income goal for your retirement plan. We're going to look at some Statistics Canada data. We're going to look at what actual retirees have on an after-tax income basis. We're going to look at some actual data from Statistics Canada. We're also going to look at some actual retirement plan data. I'm going to share with you what I've experienced working on over 1,000 different retirement plans. I'm going to share you what I believe is a reasonable range to aim for retirement spending. And then we're going to talk about how you can create your own retirement plan, how you can create a reasonable spending estimate on an after-tax basis and create a retirement income plan for yourself and make sure that that is reasonable. Now let's look at the first of the 3 things, and that's the Statistics Canada data. We're going to take a look at the Canadian Income Survey, but before we do that, it's important to highlight some caveats with this data. With these large data sets, it's important to understand where the numbers are coming from and what's included and maybe what's not. So we're going to go through a couple of these caveats first, and then we're going to take a look at the information. First caveat is that it is post-65 data. So if you retire early at age 60 or 55, that isn't necessarily reflected in the Statistics Canada data. So keep that in mind. If you retire early, you're probably spending more in early retirement. You might be spending more than the numbers that we're going to take a look at. There's also no spending phases in this number. It's just one number. So it represents the go-go phase, the slow-go phase, the no-go phase. All of that is lumped together in one number, but you are probably spending more in early retirement, less in later retirement. So keep that in mind. It's only one number here, but if you're in early retirement, you probably want to be spending a bit more. This is also median spending. So half the people are spending less than this, and half the people are spending more than this. And I suspect if you're watching this video, if you're planning for retirement, if you're creating a retirement plan, I suspect that you're in the upper 50%. Now, not necessarily, but I suspect that if you've been saving and investing diligently for retirement, you probably want to spend a bit more than the average. So keep that in mind as well. This is also national data. So obviously where you live, the region you live in, the cost of living that you're experiencing, that's going to affect how much you're able to spend in retirement, how much you want to spend. And also, I believe this data does not include TFSA withdrawals or non-registered principal withdrawals. So keep that in mind. Now, I could be wrong on that. Please let me know in the comments if that's the case, if that's actually included. But I believe that's not included in this after-tax income number from Statistics Canada. So given the size of TFSA accounts at the moment, that can be a big factor in retirement. Now, the other factor is that this is the combination of every sort of situation, renters and homeowners. That in particular I want to highlight because if you're a homeowner, I would imagine that your after-tax retirement income needs are lower than somebody who's a renter. So you might have all of your fixed cost covered because you own a home, whereas a renter has a higher variable cost because they're paying rent on a monthly basis. So keep that in mind. This data reflects all sorts of different situations in terms of spending and retirement income goals. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual survey data. We've got the Canadian Income Survey. This is from 2023. It was just released this year in 2025. We'll have a new one next year we can always take a look at as well. But this is the most recent data set that we have. Now we've got some average for all of Canadians here at the top, but let's scroll down just a little bit because what we're interested here is in this section, after-tax income for seniors. Now again, this is post-65. That's what they consider as a senior for Statistics Canada. So again, if you're early retired, this doesn't really apply to you. You might be spending more. Now median after-tax income For a family, senior family, so couples, would be about $80,000 a year. It's $79,700 for a senior family post 65. So what's interesting there is that if we look at individuals, it's about $36,400 per year. What I find interesting is that on a per person basis, couples, senior families are spending more on a per person basis than individuals. This isn't quite what I've experienced. So again, we'll talk about what I experienced after this, but my experience is that usually individuals are spending more on a per person basis than couples in retirement. So slight deviation from what I've seen. Now, what's interesting here is that we can take a look at the market income. So market income represents pensions, investment income, RSP, RIF withdrawals, etc. $52,100 for a couple. And if we look at individuals, $16,500. So again, on a per person basis, this is a bit lower for an individual, less than I would have expected. I wonder if part of this is because there may not be additional income. So individuals might be wanting to spend more, they just don't have the financial assets to support it. So that's the other caveat we probably want to keep in mind. Now, on a government transfer basis, individuals are receiving $22,900 a year. Government transfers includes Canada Pension Plan, Old Age Security, Guaranteed Income Supplement, other provincial benefits, etc. Whereas a couple, $36,200. So again, per person, individuals getting a bit more on a per person basis than couples here. So interesting data. About $80,000 a year, if I can generalize, $80,000 a year for a couple is the median, and about $36,000 a year for an individual is the median as well. And this is from Statistics Canada. Now that was the Statistics Canada data, but the second thing we want to talk about is my experience working on actual retirement plans. As I mentioned previously, my experience has been a little bit different than what the Statistics Canada information would suggest. So let's talk about what I've seen working on over 8,000 different retirement plans. And one would be that for couples, the range is a little bit higher than the median. I would say it starts around the median, around $80,000 a year, but it goes all the way up to maybe $120,000 a year. That's the typical range I see for couples in retirement on an after-tax spending basis. That's a per year after tax, no tax included there. And that, I would say, is the average. There's definitely people aiming for more than that, 150, 200, 300,000 a year. But over 120,000 a year, typically the marginal tax impact starts to increase. So I find a typical couple is aiming to spend between 80 and 120,000 a year. However, there's obviously caveats there. If you are maybe early retirement focused, if you're retiring early, if you're really managing your spending, you could be below that 80,000 number. But again, my experience for couples, 80 to 120,000 a year is a typical range to be aiming for. For individuals on a per person basis, my experience has been that they're spending more on a per person basis than couples. So the range starts at about 45,000 a year and goes up to about 60,000 a year. Now, the third thing I want to highlight is how do you create your own retirement plan? How do you create your own spending plan in retirement? How do you create your own retirement income plan? Your situation might be unique, your different spending phases, your assets, the taxes you need to pay, different income sources, how they phase in. Your retirement plan is going to be different than Statistics Canada. It's going to be different than other retirees. So let's talk about how you can create your own retirement income plan. Now, when I create a retirement income plan with clients, really what we're aiming for is after-tax retirement spending. That's what we like to talk about, is how much do you need on an after-tax basis in the different phases of retirement. The reason why we like to talk about after-tax retirement spending versus income is we want to manage taxes throughout retirement. So we might be paying more or less tax at different points in retirement depending on the different income sources, but we always want to aim for that certain after-tax spending goal. Now, the first thing we want to do to create an after-tax retirement spending goal is we want to estimate your current spending. We want to do a cash flow mapping exercise like this. We want to do that on the Advice platform. The reason why we want to do this is we want to map out your current income, your current expenses. We want to see if anything is missing. Generally, Jennifer and Michael here have done an excellent job at mapping out their current expenses, where their money is going, so they can feel very confident about their retirement spending. And there is a miscellaneous amount here. They've identified that there's about $1,300 a month that they just don't know where exactly it's going. That's very typical, but we want to include that in their retirement plan. Otherwise, they're going to fall short on their retirement spending goal. So this is the first place to start. But when we go to the expenses section here, we can see that we've built additional retirement spending phases off that initial spending estimate. So we've got their current spending here, we've got their early retirement spending, and then we've got their late retirement spending. Now you might have 3 phases of retirement spending. You might have a go-go phase, a slow-go phase, and a no-go phase. But if we look down here, we can start to compare some of these expenses across the different phases, and we can see that they're quite similar. So this is, again, a great exercise, is that a lot of these expenses are just going to carry forward into retirement, especially because Jennifer and Michael, they still own their home. So they're not planning to sell it. They're not planning to downsize. So a lot of these expenses are going to remain relatively stable. We can also look at their transportation expenses. Maybe fuel, gas goes down over time, but they're still spending relatively the same amount on their vehicle over the course of retirement. Now, maybe personal spending changes. So maybe their entertainment spending changes. Maybe in later retirement, it goes back down. Maybe in early retirement, it goes up. Certainly for travel, they want to do a lot more travel in early retirement. So there's a significant increase there. But even down here in the miscellaneous categories, we can see that they've carried forward some of those expenses, even added a bit more in miscellaneous in early retirement. So doing that current spending estimate, transferring that over into your retirement spending goal makes it very reasonable, makes it very accurate in terms of what you're aiming for. Gives you a lot of confidence in your retirement spending number as well. So as you're doing the planning, figuring out retirement income sources, you know that you're actually aiming for the right amount. If you don't have a retirement income plan, go to advice.ca, get your retirement plan started. Click the For Clients section. You can start a retirement plan for just $9 per month or $49 for the year. This gives you access to the software platform, the AI strategies to help you build a decumulation plan. You also get access to our community forum where you can ask questions, share your plan, talk about retirement decumulation planning. And we do webinars twice per month. We do a case study webinar where we look at different retirement planning examples and things to think about. And we do an open office hours where you can just ask questions about your retirement plan or how to include certain things within your retirement decumulation plan. If you don't have a retirement income plan yet, we highly encourage you to get one started. It's just $9 a month or $49 for the year. It's extremely inexpensive for how much value you get. Now, what do you think? Do you think $80,000 a year for after-tax retirement income is reasonable for a couple? What about $36,000 a year for an individual? Is that Statistics Canada data? Is it accurate, or are there other caveats that you think we missed? I'd love to know. Add a comment below and make sure you like and subscribe. We're coming out with additional retirement planning case studies and you don't want to miss them. Again, thank you for watching and we'll see you at the next one.